I thought my dad and stepbrother hated each other until I walked in on them kissing and found the hotel bookings, fake names, and love letters dating back years.
It all started on an ordinary Thursday evening, the kind where everything seems fine until your whole life changes in one blink. I was in my room, scrolling through social media, headphones on, the world tuned out. That's when my bedroom door burst open, not knocked, not gently pushed, burst like something was on fire. My mum stood there, breathless, pale, and visibly shaking, holding Dad's tablet like it was some cursed artifact. "You need to see this," she said, and her voice didn't sound like hers. It was distant, hunted, hollow. I took off my headphones, slowly, the weight of her expression already sending dread down my spine. I thought maybe she found receipts for a hotel, pictures of another woman, some affair. But when she thrust the tablet into my hands, what I saw wasn't just shocking, it was world-ending. There were messages, dozens of them, a hidden chat thread between my dad and Josh, my stepbrother. At first it didn't register. I thought it was a prank, a joke, some kind of roleplay gone too far, but then I kept scrolling. When the time's right, we'll make it official. You're up. The only one I've ever really wanted, Josh. I'll talk to her after the holidays. She won't take it well, but she'll survive. And worse, I think we should get married quietly. Just us first. Married. I reread that one about 5 times, hoping the word would magically change, but it didn't. Married, Dad, it was like my blood turned cold, slow, heavy. I looked up at Mum, who had sunk to the floor, tears silently falling down her face. I'd seen her angry before. I'd seen her hurt, but I'd never seen her this broken, betrayed, completely anchored. She whispered, "It's not just the messages. There are photos, a folder named Just Us." I didn't want to look, but I did. There were selfies of them together, alone in hotel rooms, matching shirts in tourist spots. A photo of my dad holding Josh's hand over a candlelit dinner. They weren't hiding it from each other, they were hiding it from us. The worst part, Josh had lived with us for nearly 4 years now, after Dad remarried and moved him in. He was older than me by 3 years, quiet but always polite. I'd caught strange energy between him and Dad sometimes, little glances that lasted too long, car rides that never included me, weekend workouts that always seemed private, but I chalked it up to favoritism. Not this, not a romantic relationship, not a plan to leave my mum. And definitely not an engagement. Mom clutched her arms around herself and muttered, "I thought he was cheating with a woman, but my own stepson." I didn't know what to say. My world, her world, was cracking right down the center. Josh had been like a shadow in the house lately, always whispering with Dad, always leaving just before dinner, always locking his phone. Suddenly, it all made sense, and it felt like a knife. We sat there in silence for maybe an hour, the blue light of the tablet casting eerie shadows on her tear-streaked face. "I gave him everything," she finally said, voice flat. "I forgave him for his past, for his drinking, for the way he treated me, and this is what he's been building behind my back." She looked at me, then down at the ring on her finger. I don't know who I married, but I was already spiraling. Because if they were in love, seriously in love, and he really wanted to marry Josh, that meant my family wasn't just breaking apart, it was being rewritten. Our history, our relationships, our very foundation, it was all built on a lie. My father, the man I looked up to, was prepared to walk out on his wife and his entire identity to be with his stepson, and they weren't even trying that hard to hide it anymore. What kind of person does that? Mom stood up suddenly, like something clicked inside her. "I'm not going to let him walk out of this house like he's the victim," she said, ice in her voice. "He wants to leave, fine, but not before the truth comes out. Not before everyone knows what he really is." I could feel it, something burning in her now. Rage, humiliation, the kind that transforms people. This wasn't going to end in a quiet divorce, it was going to be war. A war between a betrayed wife, a son caught in the crossfire, and a man who thought he could rewrite love like a script no one else could read. And just like that, our normal family life was over. 3 days passed like slow poison. The house was quiet, but not peaceful, more like the silence before a storm. My mum didn't cry again. That scared me more than if she had. She was in planning mode now, moving like a ghost through the house, gathering paperwork, checking call logs, whispering with people I didn't know. The only thing she said to me, over and over again, like a chant, was, "He thinks he's going to win. He doesn't know I already have the ending." And she meant it. She found a lawyer the next morning, not just any lawyer, one who specialized in explosive divorces. She showed him the screenshots, the photos, the messages, She handed him a full download from Dad's tablet and explained, with terrifying clarity, how her husband of 12 years had been secretly seducing his own stepson. The lawyer's face apparently went pale. "I've seen affairs," he told her, "but this will burn him to the ground." Then she told me the plan. She was going to invite Dad and Josh to dinner. Just dinner, like nothing had happened. She'd cook his favorite meal, rosemary chicken, lemon potatoes, red wine. She'd laugh. She'd act like she didn't know a thing. And when dessert hit the table, so would the truth. I didn't know whether to be horrified or impressed, but I followed her lead. It was like watching someone sharpen a knife made of calm. That night, the table was set, candles flickering, plates gleaming. Josh came first, all polite smiles, not knowing that my mum's eyes were burning holes through him. Dad walked in 5 minutes later with his usual smug confidence, kissing her cheek like he hadn't just planned to marry the kid who once called him sir. We ate, they laughed. Mum played her part like a pro. I could barely swallow, but she didn't flinch once. She poured the wine. She smiled at Josh. She even asked Dad about work. Then, just as Josh reached for a second helping, she said, "So, when were you going to tell me you're engaged to my stepson?" Silence. Total silence. Josh froze, spoon in hand. Dad blinked like he'd misheard her. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice already breaking. Mum stood up and slid a folder across the table. Photos, messages, the engagement plan written in Dad's own words. "You wanted to marry him," she said, voice like ice. "You were going to leave me, take our money, and build a life with him." Dad stood up so fast his chair toppled. "You went through my stuff," he snapped. "Wrong move." Mum's lips curled. "You planned a wedding behind my back, Carl. You seduced a boy who called you family. You broke every vow you ever made, and you want to talk about privacy." She turned to Josh, who looked like he wanted to disappear. "And you, living under my roof, smiling in my face. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Josh stammered. "I didn't mean to," he said. "You were done," he said, "but it didn't matter. The damage was done. The truth was naked now." My dad stood in front of us, exposed not as a man, but as a coward, a manipulator, someone who destroyed 2 families for a secret he thought he could bury with charm. But Mom wasn't done. She pulled out a phone. "You're on speaker. By the way," she said, "this whole dinner, it's recorded. My lawyer has it. So does the school board. So does the firm you work for." Dad went pale. "You think you're walking out of this clean?" she asked. "You won't. You'll leave this house, this marriage, and your reputation behind. And if you fight me in court, I'll make sure everyone you've ever known sees these pictures." He didn't argue. He didn't scream. He just walked out, just like that. Josh followed him, silent, red-faced, broken. The front door slammed shut. I watched my mum stand in the wreckage of our family, calm and victorious, tears finally spilling down her cheeks as she whispered, "He thought he was the one writing the ending." And all I could think was no one knew what she was capable of until they broke her. 2 weeks after that dinner, our family no longer existed the way it used to. My dad was living in a short-term rental apartment in the next town over, barely speaking to anyone. Josh had disappeared, moved in with a friend, apparently dropped out of his last semester of college, and didn't return any of my texts. My mum was laser-focused. She didn't cry anymore, not even once. Instead, she built a legal case so airtight it scared me a little. Her lawyer said it was one of the cleanest takedowns he'd ever seen. Assets frozen, restraining order filed, custody of my younger sister secured, and the start of a public-facing scandal that would make local headlines. She told me, if he wanted drama, he should have gone into theater and not ruined his family. The breaking point came when a news outlet picked up a leak somehow, whether it was the lawyer, the private investigator, or just someone on the inside. The story spread. A local article titled, "Well-respected businessman accused of grooming stepson in secret engagement." Plot hit the web and exploded like wildfire. My dad's face was plastered everywhere. Comments poured in, some in disbelief, some in horror, and a few, disturbingly, defending him. But the majority were exactly what he deserved: rage, disgust, betrayal from the community he once paraded through like royalty. He tried to deny it. He released a statement, all cold professionalism. "These allegations are exaggerated, misinterpreted, a private matter being weaponized." But my mum had receipt screenshots, chat logs, even a bank statement showing him transferring money to Josh for a honeymoon fund. She countered every lie with fact. It started with a sound I couldn't explain, soft, deliberate, almost too gentle for this old creaky house, but enough to rip me from my sleep like a warning whispered straight into my ear. The air was heavy, still, like the house was holding its breath. I blinked at the clock. 2:46 a.m. My sheets felt damp with sweat, even though the fan buzzed steadily in the corner. I sat up, listening, waiting, thinking maybe I'd imagined it until I heard the second sound. Unmistakable this time, a floorboard groaning under someone's weight. Then the subtle click of a doorknob being turned with unnatural slowness. My stomach knotted. I pulled on my hoodie and slid out of bed, barefoot, careful not to make a sound. The hallway was dimly lit, washed in that eerie yellow glow from the light Dad always kept on just in case. That phrase ran through my mind like an echo as I moved closer to the sound. And then I saw it. Him, my dad, standing at the end of the hallway, right outside Chloe's bedroom door, hand on the knob like he'd been frozen mid-move. He didn't flinch when he saw me, just turned his head slowly, his face void of surprise, like he knew he'd get caught eventually. My throat tightened. "What are you doing?" I asked, barely above a whisper, heart jackhammering in my chest. He blinked, slow to slow, like he was trying to come up with something believable. "I thought I heard Chloe crying," he mumbled, letting his hand fall away from the doorknob. "I was just checking in on her." But the lie was so obvious it stung. Chloe never slept with her door unlocked. She hated when anyone ever meet into her room without knocking, and the way Dad's voice cracked, the way his eyes didn't meet mine, it wasn't concern I saw in him. It was fear, guilt, something darker. I nodded slowly, not wanting to push. Not yet, but the image burned itself into my brain. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house made me flinch. Every memory of Dad's hand on that doorknob made bile rise in my throat. I kept asking myself, why was he really there? The next morning he was back to his usual self, flipping pancakes, humming an old rock song, smiling like nothing had happened. But now it all felt like a mask, a performance. Chloe was even quieter than usual, barely spoke during breakfast. Her eyes hollow, bruised with exhaustion. She didn't look at either of us. That's when I started noticing all the little things I had ignored before. How she would flinch when he passed behind her. How her laughter had completely vanished. How she jumped at sudden noises or kept the bathroom door locked for longer and longer periods. I tried to talk to her, but she always brushed it off. "I'm just tired. School sucks. It's nothing." But there was something. Something she was scared to say out loud. And once I started paying attention, the whole house felt off, like it was hiding something behind its drywall and family photos. Every room suddenly had shadows I hadn't noticed before. Every smile from Dad felt forced. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't. This was the man who used to teach me how to ride a bike, who stayed up with me during fevers, who cried when my dog died. But now, every time I looked at him, I saw someone I didn't recognize. Someone watching Chloe too closely, standing too near, smiling in ways that made my skin crawl. I didn't have proof yet, but deep down, I knew. The moment I saw him outside her room that night, something shifted forever. And even though he'd tried to walk away from that moment like it meant nothing, it was already too late. The damage was done. The seed was planted. And I knew no matter how much it hurt, I had to find out what he was hiding, before it was too late for Chloe, or for any of us. As I watched Dad's smile grow wider, a chill ran down my spine. The pancakes he flipped seemed to sizzle with an ominous intent. The aroma now a nauseating reminder of the unease that had taken up residence in our home. Chloe's silence was deafening, her eyes fixed on her plate as if her life depended on it. I tried to catch her gaze, to convey a sense of solidarity, but she refused to look up. The tension between us was palpable, a living, breathing entity that pulsed with every passing moment. As breakfast drew to a close, Dad announced he was heading out for a run. The door closed behind him, and the house seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief. But I knew it was short-lived. Chloe pushed her plate away, her eyes finally meeting mine. For a fleeting instant, I saw a glimmer of desperation, of pleading, before her mask slipped back into place. "Hey," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the hum of the refrigerator. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, her gaze darting toward the door as if she feared Dad might return at any moment. "Not here," she whispered back. "Meet me in the park at 3 p.m., and come alone." The rest of the day crawled by at a glacial pace. Every tick of the clock seemed to echo with foreboding. When 3 p.m. finally arrived, I made my way to the park, my heart racing with anticipation and fear. As I approached the designated meeting spot, I saw Chloe sitting on a bench, her eyes fixed on the ground. She looked up as I approached, and for a moment, I saw a flash of the girl she used to be, carefree, vibrant, full of life. But that girl was gone now, replaced by a shadow of her former self. "I don't know what to do," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I've been trying to tell you for weeks, but I don't know if I can." I sat down beside her, my arm wrapping around her shoulders. "You can tell me anything," I said, trying to sound calmer than I felt. "I'll help you, no matter what." She took a deep breath, her eyes welling up with tears. "It's Dad," she whispered. "He's been ... watching me, following me. He's always there, even when I'm alone." My mind reeled as the implications sank in. The sound I heard that night, the way Dad stood outside her room ... It all made sense now. "We have to get out of here," I said, my voice firm. "We can't stay in this house another night." But as we sat there, frozen in fear, I heard the unmistakable sound of twigs snapping behind us. I turned to see Dad standing there, a smile plastered on his face. "Enjoying the sunshine?" he asked, his voice dripping with malice. My heart sank. We were trapped. And I knew, in that moment, our nightmare was far from over. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the park in a sinister twilight, I realized we were running out of time. The shadows seemed to grow longer, darker, as if they themselves were closing in on us, and then everything went black. When I came to, I was lying on the ground, my head throbbing with pain. Chloe was nowhere to be seen, but I knew he had her. The darkness closed in around me, suffocating me. I screamed, but my voice was lost in the void, and when the silence finally fell, I was left with only one thought. I had to find Chloe before it was too late. I stumbled through the darkness, my heart racing with every step. I had to find Chloe. I had to save her. The park was deserted, the only sound the distant hum of crickets and the rustling of leaves. I called out her name, but there was no response. I walked. The trees seemed to loom over me, casting long, ominous shadows on the ground. I felt like I was walking through a nightmare, with no escape. Every step I took seemed to lead me deeper into the darkness. And then, I saw it. A figure in the distance. Chloe. She was standing in front of a tree, her eyes fixed on something behind me. I turned to see Dad standing there, a twisted smile on his face. "You're too late," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "She's mine." Now, I lunged at him, but he was too strong. He pinned me to the ground, his eyes blazing with a sinister intensity. "You're just in time to witness the beginning of our new life together," he whispered, his breath cold against my ear. Chloe's eyes met mine, and I saw a glimmer of hope. She was still alive. But as I looked deeper, I saw the fear, the desperation. She was trapped, and I had to save her. With a surge of adrenaline, I broke free from Dad's grip and launched myself at him. We struggled, the outcome hanging in the balance. But just as it seemed like I was gaining the upper hand, Dad's expression changed. His eyes went dark, and he whispered, "You'll never save her." And with that, everything went black. When I came to, I was alone. The park was deserted. The only sound, the distant hum of sirens. I stumbled to my feet, my heart racing with fear. I ran towards the sound, my legs pumping as fast as they could. And then, I saw them. The police cars, the ambulances. Chloe was standing there, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes fixed on mine, ran towards me, and we collided in a tight hug. "I thought I'd lost you," she whispered, her voice shaking with sobs. I held her close, my heart overflowing with relief. We'd made it, we'd survived. As we pulled back, I saw Dad being led away in handcuffs. His eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw a glimmer of the monster he'd been hiding, but it was too late. Justice had been served. And as we walked away from the park, arm in arm, I knew we'd never be the same again. We'd faced the darkness, and we'd come out on top. The sun began to rise, casting a golden glow over the city. A new dawn, a new beginning, for both of us.